Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Hope everyone's doing well this morning. So, there's a test that they give people to determine what your stress level is. And they ask all kinds of questions. It's actually a very long, it's a long test, and how you answer each question gets you a certain score. Uh, and the higher the score, the more stressed out you are. The things on that list that will get you a higher score than anything is moving. Right? First question is, how many times have you moved in the last 3 years? There's a reason that moving stresses the hell out of you. In fact, there's probably about five, right? Number one, it requires getting a lot of what you have and have had out for a very long period of time into a very small place, right? You have to box these things and then stack the boxes and do all of that. But more than that, it's a snapshot of your life. As you start to pack these things up, you start looking at memories that are 20 years old or 30 years old or 50 years old or whatever. And they remind you of people that are no longer here or friends you're no longer friends with. And all of these things can cause a pretty incredible amount of stress. Then on top of that, there's a crap load of furniture, that kind of needs to be taken apart, put back together, when you get where you're going and all of that stuff. But I'm also consolidating things. There are things that, I could probably buy a new one at some point, like when I get to where I'm going. So, a couple of mattresses and box springs, for as cheap as those things go these days, you're probably better off just getting rid of them and buying new ones. But getting those from the top floor to the bottom floor is absolutely unbelievable. When you get to the stairs, if it's anything, queen size or bigger, trying to navigate that, go around a set of stairs and come back the other way is a very difficult thing to do. So you start trying to come up with other ways. You can go over the top, right? Sort of lower that mattress and that box spring down. The trouble is, if you don't lower it down perfectly, you're going to break something when that thing hits the ground. And there's things around there that it could break. Point is, this stuff creates a lot of stress. And for that reason, I thought, you know what? I should go on the boat and I should talk about stress, because right now I'm an authority on it. Truthfully, I think I'm doing pretty well with the whole move thing. I don't think I'm as stressed out as I would have been in different times in my life. To be sure, this is one of the easier moves than ones I remember in the past. If you are thinking to yourself, hey, that doesn't look like he fired up the green screen. Just for today, I have turned the lights down a lot lower than I would need for the green screen to work well. So I'm just going to do without that, a little less light on me today. The office where I film in is basically untouched. And the reason is, for those of you who have been on the boat for any length of time, hello, Kathy. Glad to have you here. There's a very large roll top desk. It's antique, beautiful desk. And it's absolutely massive. And it's where I do a lot of my watch stuff. But even empty, that thing weighs a ton. And currently it's not empty, but so we're not moving that. That's something that's going to have to be moved on the very last day. And, I've not taken down the green screen until the day that I leave, because that's, but the rest of the house is completely destroyed. And everywhere you walk, it's not like you can go to any place in this house and think, oh, I'm just going to relax, because every single place you go reminds you of the fact that the clock is ticking and pretty soon all of this stuff is going to be out of here. So as I started thinking about all of this stuff, I thought, how many damn shows have I done on stress? Because I guarantee you it's been a lot of them. So I started to just sort of get a look at them. I didn't watch any of them, but I started sort of just, scrolling down through to see how many I've done. I've done a lot. And the more I thought about it, the more it made a crap load of sense to me that I've done a lot. because this is a pretty rugged topic, right? We say if you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, right? Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Acronym says HALT. And I've said in the past that I like to throw a G in there, right? Because guilt is a really big one. Well, how the hell did they leave stress off of that list? Huh? For real. Stress can remind you why you did drugs like very few other things. I'm not in any danger of relapsing or anything even remotely like that. But it becomes really obvious where you go, you know what? I did dope to make this feeling and feelings like this go away. Plain and simple, right? It's a very, very uncomfortable feeling. So once that's off the table and there's no more dope in your life, how do you cope with it? What kind of things do you do to try to get through it? And I'm sure that everybody goes a little bit different, right? Working out's a big one for a lot of people because when you get your heart beating, hello, Tina, glad that you're here. Moving sober sucks. Sucks less. Yeah, you know what? It was funny because I was having this conversation yesterday or maybe the day before. And Mama Scoville's looking around and going, oh man, we have so much to do in such a short period of time. And I said, I'm just not at all worried about the timetable. And, she said, I just don't understand how you can say that. Well, because if you've been in the life for any length of time, if you had a drug problem, chances are you had to move 3 or 4 times where they said everything you own has to be out of here in the next 48 hours, right? Or I was running from something and that had to happen. 2A is absolute. Also, when you move and get to a new place, seems like there is a way more being unpacked than what you packed. Yep. Then you think, did I have this much stuff? Yeah, absolutely. And that really is something that happens, man. So yeah, I had to make a couple of trips to the dump yesterday. I had to do all these things. But I remember moves that were stressful. I think I've told the story on the boat before, but when I lived in Salt Lake City, a guy came and knocked on the door, and he's just a regular looking dude in street clothes. And I opened the door and I said, can I help you? And he asked me not the Tommy name because I wasn't Tommy at that point, but he asked me if I was so-and-so. And I said, yeah, I am. What can I do for you? And he proceeded to reach into his shirt, not into his pants pocket or anything else. He did this kind of a number. And he pulled out an FBI badge on those chains that people wear, like ski passes or whatever. I don't know what they're called. They have the little round balls, but like dog tags come on. Well, he was wearing an FBI badge on one of those, and he just sort of showed it to me. And I went, okay, what can I do for you? And he said, I know what you're doing. He said, and I've tried to talk to other people about it. He said, and I basically, what he said in a nutshell was he did not get permission to start investigating me, but that he knows exactly what the hell I'm doing. And then he turned and walked away from my house. And I turned and walked into the living room and yelled, we're leaving. And this was a home that, I wasn't renting this. I had a mortgage. I had it through the owner. The owner of the home was carrying the mortgage, but I had been paying on this house for a long time. This thing, we had made some unbelievable improvements, put down hardwood floors. I had a 1,000-gallon fish tank built into the wall. I had a Harley Davidson that was not going to fit in the back of the truck. And we packed everything that we had, left a big sectional green leather couch. But everything had to get tossed in the back of that truck as fast as possible because we were going to be leaving before the sun came up the following day. Trouble with memories like that is this kind of crap brings all of those memories back, right? And it's a really odd thing because when a memory is vivid, when you really are in the moment and really feeling a memory, you don't just feel the memory, right? You feel the emotion that was tied to that memory, and it's palpable. It is That's me less the bike, says John Doe. Yeah. Well, and when I say Harley, it was a Fat Boy, and it was not what you think. I mean, it was a nice bike, but it wasn't, the dressed out. I made a bunch of cash and bought this kind of thing. Um, but I did get it when I was working as a public speaker. But there was a ton of stuff I left behind, and as I started packing this stuff up, this really started to make me go back in time to not just that move, but so many others. I was renting half of a duplex once from a woman, and this woman belonged to a specific religion. Doesn't matter which one, but she was devout, like no one you've ever met. And the rent was so cheap, it didn't even make sense. But there were a lot of rules. And one of the rules is that you couldn't have any animals of any kind. She went as far as to say, I don't want you to have a fish, right? In my home. I said, okay. Now I needed to be moving into that place because once again, I had run out of a place with all of my possessions the day before. So I needed this place. I also had 4 cats. Yeah, 4 cats. And this woman broke the law. Like, she came and entered into my domicile that I was renting without so much as a warning, right? And what that poor woman found in that apartment was way more than 4 cats, if you know what I mean. I had not prepped this. I was running out of the house and I was planning on coming back shortly. So all of the accoutrements that are used to get opiates into your body via the bloodstream were laid out on a table, right? It was just, I can't imagine a landlord walking in on that. But when I came back, she said, you need to be out today. And I said, how is that even possible? She said, I don't know, but I took pictures of everything in there. I said, I'll be out today. Yeah. All of these memories just keep coming back. And the emotions, the stress of those are stressing me out more than this move because they're real. And what I realized is the reason that they're coming back and slapping the crap out of me is I never dealt with them. I never dealt with any of these things. I didn't have to. Once I got sober and I started working through things, well, I thought about times that I hurt people or times that I lied to people, or times that, I was a cheater or whatever the sins of my previous life, right? I never unpacked, so to speak, in my mind, the stuff that just seems innocuous, but was still such a part of that drug life. And it's very, very odd when all of these start coming back on you. On the bright side, I have a toolbox full of things that I can do to help me cope with these kind of things. But it is astonishing what the mind is capable of. So stress is designed to protect us, right? That's why it's there. Stress and the chemicals that we release when stress is happening, they're there for a reason, a damn good reason, right? And we've talked about this one in the past. You're being chased by a bear. Well, that's some stress, isn't it? That's unbelievable stress. So you're running as fast as you can, and there's this huge, right, black bear running on all 4 legs, and yeah, you're trying to get to a vehicle and get in it and drive away as fast as possible. That is heavy-duty stress. You get in the car, you drive away, and you look at the person you're with, and you go, "Oh, thank the Lord!" Right? How close was that? And then the two of you giggle, right? We've all been there, right? Hunt says, "I chase the bears." We've all had something in our life that just the stress was unbelievable. And all of the hormones and everything that got released, all of the chemicals, you got too close to the edge of something and didn't realize how far the drop was. And all of a sudden, right? It's like instantly your heart's in your throat and that chemical kicks on and you are different than you were 5 seconds earlier. Stress will do amazing things to the body because it's supposed to, right? This is the autonomic nervous system. And you know why it's doing that? because it assumes that you're going to need to fight or get the hell out of there, right? You've all heard fight or flight. So I want you to think back to that time, whatever it was. It could have been 6 guys that called you outside by a bar and you thought, these 6 people are going to kill me. But we've all had that one experience where I thought, good Lord, I really thought that was the end. I thought that was it. Car in your lane, right? The driver's looking down. You can see the fact that he's not looking at you. He's coming straight at you. Any one of these things can absolutely kick into your brain and into your body gnarly stress, right? The kind of stress that makes you go, damn. Okay. What happens if you live like that? What happens if that feeling of fight or flight doesn't go away? And you say, come on, there's nobody that lives like that. There's a ton of people that live like that. You say, that can't be. You know, like the kind of stress you feel on a roller coaster. If you lived with that every single day, you wouldn't be able to function. You wouldn't be able to do anything. Well, you know something? There's a million people doing it, maybe more, every single day. There are people on the boat doing it. I promise you. Now, like anything else, if you live in a constant state of fight or flight, your body is going to adjust to it over time, right? And it's like the boiling water. You know, if you put a frog in water and you start heating it, it'll stay in there until it, cooks them. But if you drop them in the boiling water, you jump out as fast as possible. It's the same kind of thing. The stress starts to ease up on us. And as we live, it's a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So it's not like all of a sudden one day we went bam, and then it never stopped, because that we would probably go to a doctor for, wouldn't we? Doc, I don't know what the hell happened, right? I was on a roller coaster. I got off and I felt like I'm still on that roller coaster. Well, that's exactly what living with an anxiety disorder or living with, really heavy duty stress in your life. But it's pretty scary stuff. Squirrel, full of hope. I don't know about anyone else, but I do. Well, Mark, I don't know what you do. Maybe I should back up and check it out. Maybe I ought to back up and check it out. I can't even find another Mark. Sorry. Yeah, absolutely cannot even find another Mark. Well, that's all right. I don't know what you said, but it is possible to live in a state of fight or flight. It is also a really awful, awful way to live. How does one deal with that? How does one possibly deal with that? Because it's a pretty heavy thing. Well, some people pull away from society, right? They don't leave their house. They don't talk to other people. They don't do anything. They isolate. They get as far away from anything that they think will exacerbate that stress, right? Because they're thinking, if I feel like this now, imagine what would happen if somebody just, somebody did something to me or something happened out there, or, right? So they isolate. And there are people who literally will stay inside, right? These people don't go anywhere. They don't do anything. They very often are referred to as shut-ins, right? And it's not agoraphobia or whatever that one's called. It's not that you're afraid of going outside. It's just that you're living with something that is telling you that if it gets any worse, you're in deep trouble. It's not the outside you're afraid of. It's everything that you're afraid of. You just can't risk that your stress is going to get any worse. Now, there is a cure for this stuff, right? And we've talked about this before. The vagus nerve, right? And what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas, right? Well, what happens in this one can. If you start to really work on things like, meditation, spending time in deep prayer, the type of meditation where you lay there and you sort of flex different muscle groups, and then you let them relax, and you do that in a kind of a sequence. That right there can kick the vagus nerve into gear, right? The vagus nerve literally does exactly the opposite of fight or flight. It is what kicks in when you just ate a little bit too much on Thanksgiving Day and you're about to melt into the couch and watch a football game, right? That's the vagus nerve, hard at work. We stay inside because we are not judged inside. As soon as we walk outside, judgment comes. Ladybug, I get that. That's legit and that's real. You know, that is real. Kathy says, that's me to a large degree, self-isolated. Well, we've talked a lot, people, about what isolation, and Ladybug, I hope you're feeling better. What isolation can do, right? It is unhealthy. In fact, we were talking, I think it was 2 nights ago, right? Or maybe it was 2 nights ago. And they say that loneliness, right? Chronic loneliness, where you just keep yourself away from people, they say it's more dangerous, more detrimental to your longevity for how long you're going to live than chronic drinking. Connection is not only what keeps us sober, it's what keeps us happy, and it's what keeps us sane. Full of Hope says, I just want to say to all of the crew, yesterday I was in a really bad place. Thank you all for your supportive comments. It made all of the difference. I left the boat and I was able to cope. That is awesome. That really is awesome, Full of Hope. And, you know, it says a great deal about the crew members on this boat, right? The crew members on this boat do amazing things to help individuals on a daily basis. Makes me really, really proud to have anything to do with this place, because it really is unlike anything anywhere. So what happens in a very normal, cha-ching, right? Air quotes, normal person? Yeah, and my theme song used to be I Drink Alone by George Thorogood and the Delaware Destroyers. I know that song. And that says, you are loved, Full of Hope, and we care about your well-being. Let's put that one up there because I really like that. Pathological loneliness is often from growing up in fight or flight and extreme dysfunction, says Kathy. A lot of truth to this. And you can grow up living in fight or flight mode at all times. Brandon, well done. 20 days sober. I love it. 20 days sober. Full of Hope. Good tears are excellent, right? There's nothing wrong with good tears. But if you grow up in fight and flight mode, right? How do you fix this? What do you do? There's got to be a way, right? Well, you know what modern medicine says, right? You know how you fix that? Diazepam. And if that doesn't work for you, we'll try alprazolam, right? We're going to get to this. How about lorazepam? So if the Valium doesn't get you, right, and the Xanax doesn't get you, maybe the Ativan will get you. Or maybe it's going to be a cocktail of a couple of different anti-anxiety medicines, and then maybe some selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And then when we get all of that cocktail put together, maybe even throw in an antipsychotic, because sometimes those really, really help with sleep as well. But if we throw all of those together, then we might just be able to get you to a point where you have the ability to start sliding out of fight or flight mode long enough to engage and be a happy individual, right? That's medicine. Here's my theory. And it's just my theory, man. You do not have to accept my theory ever. You understand? And you're never going to hurt my feelings if you do not accept what my theory is. But here's my theory. So all of these moves that were stressful as hell, that have been parked in the back of my mind, I don't visit them, right? I'm not there. I don't spend a great deal of time thinking, hey, maybe I'll go back to all of the times that I've moved and revisit those. Doesn't happen. So it's almost kind of easy to forget that stress is in there, just waiting, right? Waiting for that to happen. Sorry. Mark, that's tough. And I did a lot of stupid things to get adrenaline going when I was younger. The lifeboat got me off my 20-year SSRI. I'm not a zombie anymore. I love that, Full of Hope. I absolutely love that. So there are there are two different types of adrenaline too, people. There's fight or flight. And then there is a completely different version that sometimes feels the same, but it is not the same. Jumping out of an airplane is probably the best example of it, right? You're not going to get a whole lot more adrenaline in your life than jumping out of an airplane. That really will get your attention. However, there's no feeling of self-defense. There's no feeling of being attacked. There's no feeling of how you are going to cope. You're stepping out of the plane. You're going to pull a parachute. There's nothing on the anger spectrum. And most often, fight or flight very often is accompanied by a really heavy duty emotion, but it doesn't have to be. Jumping out of an airplane, the emotion is joy, excitement, right? Nothing that isn't fun. What happens if you're living your life in fight or flight? I think you have to unpack the things from your past that are stressing you out and deal with them until basically you can work through whatever's messing with you. So last night, I laid down to go to bed. By the way, no bed. Big thanks to Aaron for introducing me to your channel. Kathy, a big thanks to him for introducing you as right, and everybody else that came over from. Aaron's a great guy, and he's a lot of fun to watch. Honestly, I binge his stuff. That's how I knew about the channel. He's really, really a good guy. So all of a sudden, I'm back thinking about all of these, the stress from all of these moves. It's a snapshot in your head. Sadly, snapshots very often are attached to memories. Memories are attached to emotions. And when all of that stuff gets pulled together, you can be stressed just to the point where you were that day. And any little thing can trigger it. And here's this. This was obvious as hell, wasn't it? I'm packing stuff up and I'm moving. So I start thinking to myself, yeah, I remember when, leaving Salt Lake, and I go through all of that in my head, right? And then I go through a couple of other moves and why I had to move and all of those things. That stress begins to start building up in my body. But what if it's something innocuous? What if it's not super obvious? What if I'm not talking about moving, right? What if I'm not talking about moving at all? But somehow, a split second of, oh yeah, I had a Harley Davidson Fat Boy. I left it in Utah. And you think you're done. You're moving on. But your brain's not. Your brain's going, yeah, you left it there because the feds and everybody else on the planet was after you. You were burning furniture to stay warm, right? You had really hit rock bottom and you needed to run. Well, all of that's back. And it can be the smallest trigger in the world. And when that stress comes on, sometimes it comes on and announces itself, right? Tommy, we're going to get the hell stressed out of ourselves right now. And we're going to think about that time, that you were going through customs and somebody wanted to search, something that had a lot of drugs in it. Sometimes you don't get that announcement. Sometimes you just get stressed and you don't have any idea why, right? You hear people say, I get panic attacks. I took myself off of SSRIs. Never been better dealing with whatever I am up against and loving the learning. Found me right there. I'm okay today. That's all you got to be okay for, Annette, right? It's all you got to be okay for. Today's a good one. Get through today and it's good. Midnight Express, John Doe. I'll tell you something really funny about that. People, if you've never seen the movie Midnight Express, the guy gets caught with hashish and ends up getting put in one of the worst prisons in the world, and they gave him damn near life. And the abuse was awful. It's a horrendous movie. The book is a little different. His escape in the movie bears no resemblance at all to the truth of how he escaped. It's actually a pretty interesting story. But the part of that movie that definitely was real was, I remember when this person said, "Hey, mate," was trying to call me back. And I was starting to walk away, and they wanted me back, and they started following me. And I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. And I could hear it so loud that I could barely hear what the guy was saying. It was kind of like, when Heather did the meditation the other day and the music was on, you could hear her, but it was just kind of hard to make it out. Honestly, everything that was going on around me was like that, because the beating in my ear was so loud that I basically couldn't hear anything else. It was awful. But the point is, those emotions are ready to pop up onto the surface at the drop of a hat, at the slightest trigger. So you have to realize that that is a possibility, right? Sorry. A friend of mine, a friend of the family, got out of jail, and he always comes to my home and spends the night with us before heading home. He OD'd, and there was only one Narcan in the house. I was praying like crazy. Oh, my word. Yeah, and the stress of that moment, can you imagine, people? Honestly, Jules Mark Davis, can you imagine what that stress would be like? That's terrifying. It really is. That's terrifying. And while I was in active addiction, I honestly could not tell you how many times I had to bring somebody back who wasn't breathing. It was a weekly event because it's that kind of drug. But you can bring this stress into your life and not realize whether or not it's happening. So when you start to feel a little screwy and you start to feel that stress coming on, and we've talked about this many times, right? What you want to do right then is you want to stop doing everything you're doing and count to 10. Now, it always sounds like stupid advice, doesn't it? What the hell is counting to 10 going to do to help lower my stress? Tommy, that's just plain stupid. Well, it's not the counting to 10 that does anything, right? It's what it does is this. Your brain is this little enemy that sits inside your skull, right? And it makes a lot of things work, but it doesn't necessarily communicate all of those things to other parts of the brain. So when the fight or flight kicks in, it doesn't realize, if you're getting this from a past memory, as far as the brain's concerned, that memory is happening right now. That's why it's giving you fight or flight. You understand? It can't see what's happening around you. So back to my first illustration. You got a bear chasing you. Okay, if you think of that memory, that part of your brain goes, holy crap, we got a bear chasing us again. And they send down all of that fight or flight to protect you. But you don't need it, right? And that creates all kinds of stress. If you stop and say, 1, 2, 3, that part of your brain goes, well, there's never been anybody in history getting chased by a bear who stopped in the middle of the chase to count to 10. What you're doing is you're telling your brain that we're not experiencing this now. This happened a long time ago. Notice, I'm counting to 10. That's going to get your brain to at least stop with the fight or flight chemicals. Now, you're still going to have to deal with the original ones that came down, and that's going to take a minute it's going to take a minute before that chills out. I would recommend trying to communicate. You are not supposed to run from a bear ever. I apologize, Ladybug. It was an illustration. Please put in your favorite animal. Can I run from a wolf? So a wolf is trying to chase you. Whatever the memory was, right? Whatever the memory was, by counting to 10, you're telling your brain, you're telling the autonomic nervous system that this isn't a big deal, right? I realize that you're giving me chemicals, but there's nothing around me that's any danger to me, right? That's the purpose of counting to 10. It's your way of saying there is no danger. Because if you can convince your brain that there is no danger, well, then you're probably going to start chilling out. And that is really what we're looking for. We just want to get back to our baseline, right? We don't want to be stressed out. And for the love of God, we don't want to live in it, right? Permanent anxiety, walking around like that all the time. And there's a ton of people, right? There's a whole industry. There are books you can read on this, right? The Sackler family, that great bastion of, don't even get me started. The Sacklers are the people that brought you OxyContin and all of the advertising for it. But you know what made him famous? The very first ad that has ever been advertised. Hold on. Did someone say they're leaving? Because I saw a bunch of people say bye. That's funny, Luke Skywalker. Drop the picnic basket. That is actually really, really funny. So I have no idea where I was going with that. And that doesn't surprise me because this seems to happen to me more often. It really does. More often, again and again. Okay, so the Sackler family. The original drug that they advertised, and no drug had ever been advertised prior to this, right? There's only 2 countries that allow you to advertise drugs. And advertising drugs is stupid because you can't go into a store and buy them. You have to go to a doctor. So now we don't go to a doctor and say, you know what? I've got the weirdest thing happening. My legs are starting to, now people walk in and say, I have restless leg syndrome. You need to write me a prescription for Lyrica. I've seen the ads on TV. It is screwing up the doctor and patient relationship. But the first ad ever run was for Valium. The reason that the Rolling Stones wrote the song Mother's Little Helper, because that's how that thing was, it was marketed to housewives. Are you stressed out? Are you living in permanent stress? Is it driving you nuts? Are you being taken, for granted by your children, your husband, all of these things? Have we got something for you? These little 5 milligram tablets with a V cut in them, right? It's called Valium, and it will just make you relax, and it's harmless, and blah, blah, blah. Well, that made him rich and famous. And it's a sad thing because since then the amount of advertising that has happened in the drug world, there are things that we can do to try to keep this stuff under control. Now, one of the things is to actually face all of the deals that are causing you stress. Face them, work through them. Sometimes that's hard to do alone. This is the reason that there are huge therapy groups, right? And this is the reason why there are people who work one-on-one, and they are going through all of their problems. Do you know the easiest way to do that for me is the journal. It doesn't cost me anything, right? And I'm never going to sugarcoat anything. I'm never going to knock the edges off of whatever I'm talking about, right? I don't have to worry about the journal judging me at any level. So if I'm working through something, I can work through something. I can write down exactly why I feel like a dirtbag, right? Or why what was I doing that was wrong? Because stress, it can come as a cocktail, right? I mean, if you're driving away from a bank that you just robbed, well, now we've got a whole lot going on, right? You're breaking the law. You know that the stress is coming, right? You've got this large prison sentence looming over your head, and you got a drug addiction that you need to feed, right? All of these things can be coming together to make that stress cocktail absolutely toxic. But here's what's crazy. Any of the memories that I have of breaking the law and getting in trouble or getting chased or any of those things, none of them affect me. I think back to them and I never get stressed out, ever. You know why? Because they were right on the surface when I started to get sober. They were the first things I worked through. Just needed to say what happened, to have people to talk to, even if I'm a stranger. What do you think about her and friends going on methadone? Her and Friends. Now, I'm not sure who Her is. Here's the deal with methadone. It works for a lot of people. It works very well for a lot of people. It is a painkiller. It really is. It is a very, very efficient painkiller. It stays in your system for a very long time. Its half-life is so much longer than any other opiate that the idea, your daughter, okay. So the idea is that as you build up more and more in your system, then if they start taking you down 5 milligrams at a time, you have so much built up in your system that you're not going to notice it, if that makes sense. That is why this is a drug that they use so effectively to treat opiate use disorder. Now, there are newer versions of drugs that do the same thing, right? Right now, there are basically 3 others that they treat opioid dependency with. So you've got methadone, which we just talked about. It's a very strong painkiller, right? Then the next would be a family of drugs that are really unusual because they are a partial agonist and a partial antagonist. So what that basically means is it is a drug that can give you an effect, and it's also a drug that can block the receptors from getting an effect. It's a very strange cocktail, right? It's marketed under the name brand Suboxone. I just withdrew off a Subutex as an example. Okay. Subutex and Suboxone are very, very similar, right? The only difference between Subutex and Suboxone is the naltrexone, the fact that there is Narcan added to the strip. And there are a number of reasons that that's done. It's not just the obvious, right? It's not just so that you're not going to mix it with other drugs and do all of that. It is, yeah, you're familiar. Okay. How about Sublocade? Are you familiar with Sublocade? Because that, I think, is probably, right now in my head, I think that's probably the best thing going. I have not done it, but the research I've done on it, am I familiar with Wellbutrin? Absolutely. Bupurion, I believe, is the generic version of that. Okay, so Jules, here's what Sublocade does. It does the exact same thing as Suboxone, right? Exact same thing. Except instead of taking this every single morning, you go see a doctor, and the doctor gives you a shot in your stomach like he would if it were insulin. Gives the fat a little squeeze, sticks it in there, and gives you an injection. You will not need another one for a minimum of 30 days. And I know some people that right now are stretching it to like 50 and 60 days before they feel like they need another shot. And what it does beautifully is it takes everything off the table. In other words, if you're on Suboxone, you get up in the morning and you start your routine and you go, oh, I got to take my Suboxone, right? Next day, I got to take my Suboxone. Next day, got to take my Suboxone, right? This becomes a habitual thing. And prior to that, it was got to take that dope, right? I got to get a fix. I got to get a fix. Well, with Sublocade, one shot, and then for a solid month, the best thing to do is definitely to talk about it, says Ultramaggot, and he's right. So with Sublocade, you will forget that you are on any kind of medical assisted treatment. You will just stone cold forget about it. One day your phone will beep, right? Because you will have set it to ring you 5 days before you need your next visit to the doctor. But the fact that you do not have to revisit in your head every single day that you're taking a medical assisted treatment drug, the fact that you do not have to visit that on a daily basis makes it much more easy to start to acclimate to a lifestyle that has nothing to do with drugs, right? This is the theory, and I think it's probably a pretty decent theory. Again, I have not done it, right? I've done Subutex, I've done Suboxone. In fact, I did Suboxone about 45 minutes ago, right? Suboxone is a part of my life and my daily routine. I am a very firm believer in it. And I have to tell you that, right? I have to tell you that up front because obviously I'm a little, the fact that it saved me makes me almost want to, not push it, but it's hard to be objective because of what it has done for me. Do they have to be licensed doctor as for Suboxone? I love that because I know I act obsessed over pharma meds. Yeah, it's the. I don't believe it's the same thing as you would have to with Suboxone. And what they mean is Suboxone, you have to take another course on top of everything else you've ever learned. It is a medication that you cannot just prescribe. There are doctors all over America that can't prescribe Suboxone because it's that one drug that they have not gone back to more school for. But I will tell you this, Jules, there are in many, many states across the U.S., in many states across the U.S., they're changing the laws so that your family doctor or your family physician can write a prescription for Suboxone because it is getting to be such a problem that they're making it easier, not harder. But I do believe, they have to be a licensed MD. I do not think they have to be a specific, kind of MD that can deal with that, like it was with Suboxone. But I'm not 100% sure on that. Scoob says, I know someone who abuses Suboxone, uses it like he did heroin. He might even be putting it in a syringe. It was a very popular thing in prison. People would actually inject it, which is really just absolutely stupid. I bypassed my regular doctor, too judgmental. Good for you, Ladybug. It's when you get somebody and I believe I know the people that you're using, and they are the least judgmental people on the planet. they do not care. No matter what you tell them, they do not care. I just fell on my butt into our chiller. Oh, that stinks. You never knew I was taking Suboxone? Yeah, so I have been on Suboxone. I guess I'm closing in on 3 years. Hell, I'm dirty right now. I'm very disappointed with myself. Okay, what was the name again, please? Well, we don't have a problem with you being dirty right now, Jules. Every single person who ever gets sober is dirty before they're sober, right? It's called Sublocade, right? Sublocade. Don't ask me how to spell that because I am just not that person. I don't spell anything right. But if you misspell Sublocade on you're going to have no problem whatsoever getting it anyway. Google will fix it for you. So now, yeah, the Taiwanese, no problem. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. I get it. Now, Jules, if we're just being super, super honest, right? Because honesty is a really good thing. Why were you on Subutex and not Suboxone? Because usually there is only one reason that people choose to go on. There's only one reason that most people avoid Suboxone and choose Subutex. And I'm just curious if that was the same reason. Hey, Miss V, good to see you. You know what? I knew you weren't here because I made a V reference earlier to something and I didn't. Normally, I would have seen you say something. My attorney told me that open carrying is immoral. Yeah. Get a different lawyer. That looks like it might be right. Full of hope. How she spelled Sublocade. I think that's probably pretty close. If that's not it, it sure looks that way. I will not make any. I'll just tell you this. With Subutex, you can sort of put drug cocktails together and have Subutex be part of it. For pain, it's easy to abuse. Yes. Well, Jules, here's the deal. It's the exact same thing as Suboxone. There is no difference. The only difference is you can't mix it with other drugs. That is the only difference. Plain and simple. It's same drug. It's buprenorphine, one way or the other, right? They're both bupe. It's just how they do that. My thing is full of hope. This is definitely a Trekkie thing, and I've got Captain Kirk's shirt on my wall. No, that's definitely a live long and prosper. If I'd done it that way, but that's usually I make the live long and prosper deal whenever I'm bringing up Miss V. And today it was because I said Valium. Just I like the V better that way. Yeah, what did I say? I don't know. I didn't say Spock. It doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I took it once. I didn't know I was so damn sick. Yeah. Yeah, precipitate withdrawal. One of the unusual things about that entire class of drugs. DJ Dario, good to see you, brother. One of the things about those class of drugs is that um, they play king of the mountain on the mu receptor. So if you've got other drugs on there, buprenorphine will get in there and sweep them all off, right? So even if you don't have the Narcan in there, that is still a danger depending on how you take it and when you take it. Lemmy says there was a TV show called V. Yeah, there was. Lizard People, right? I remember V. That was a long time ago. Full of Hope says she remembers it too, which is amazing because I believe Full of Hope is 23 or 24. Must have caught it on reruns. Must have caught it on reruns. Yes, good morning to you too, Mr. T. I'm really glad to see you. I know you have your schedule's tough. So whenever you can catch a live, I love it. I know you watch all of them, but it's just great when you can be here live. I have really bad anxiety sometimes to the point where it is almost debilitating, but I'm terrified to take any kind of medications for it, given my history with drugs. Well, that's a really decent way to go forward, Ultra Maggot. I think that kind of caution, an abundance of caution, is going to pay off. I promise. Like that's always a good thing. Now there are times you're going to have to take some drugs, right? There are times that it's just unavoidable. This is my favorite meeting ever. I've been doing this program a long time. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And I'm glad that this is your favorite. I think that's great. So Ultra Maggot. Here's my question. So you're not taking any medication for this, but sometimes you get anxiety to the point where it is almost debilitating. What do? You're not taking drugs. So you fight through it, right? You get away from people for a little while. What is your go-to? How is it that you get through it now? Because obviously, as you said, you're not using drugs. So I'd be curious to know, what is your go-to plan currently? Jules says, don't. Alprazolam Xanax is a bitch to get off. Yeah, it really is. All of the benzodiazepines are very difficult to get off. And as we say so often, it can kill you, it can put you into seizures. It's very, very dangerous when you're trying to kick benzos. My boy is taking summer school driver's ed, so I'm up. Oh, man, those days are fun, huh? That's awesome. DJ Daddy-O, that is awesome. Yes, I watched that show. They still have it on an app. Can't remember one. Okay. Let's see. I'm waiting for Ultra Maggot to tell me. I'm hoping he's going to say to me, well, hey, this is how I dealt with it. They live. Another good one. Yep. So Annette says, meditate for anxiety relief. Good call. Good call. Meditation absolutely can do wonders to lower stress levels. Talking to my wife about it really helps, or I'll try to divert my attention to something else. Talking about it and really unpeeling it, right? It's such an uncomfortable thing. But if somebody talks to you actually while you're panicking, right? To sit you down and say, okay, look, count to 10. You know there's nothing threatening you, right? So what memory is bringing this on? And sometimes meditation or writing in a journal or whatever will bring that back, and you'll have the ability to deal with it and cope with it. And once you have, it's very rare that it comes back and does that stress thing. For the other anxiety folks, how about CBDs and teas in that genre? I've heard good things. I can't speak to it personally. I've heard a lot of people say that CBD has been really excellent in helping them calm down. For me, talking to Ivan helps. Absolutely has dealt with stress, etc. Big time. Communication's key. I'm down from 4 Xanny bars to a half of a 3 a day. Wow, that's fantastic. If you continue to step down, and that's the right way to do it, right? That's the safe way to do it. So I don't know if you're working with a doctor to help you do that, but that's exactly what he would have told you to do, or something very, very similar to that. Also, says Ultra Maggot, I go through the AM, I halt. Sometimes drinking too much coffee triggers it. Sometimes not drinking enough water triggers it. Yep, all of those things are legit. If you take care of yourself, right? If you're eating right, if you're sleeping right, all of the stuff we talk about all the time in terms of self-care, if you're doing that, your odds of having anxiety attacks are far, far less. Unlike others have mentioned, getting out and about helps me deal with my anxiety. Not being able to get out has increased it exponentially. Ms. Alexander, that has been repeated by so many people. This is the reason that whole thing that we had a couple of years back, the C plus, we don't say the word on here because it gets your videos buried. But that thing that we had to deal with and wear masks, right? That did that to a lot of people. And it made addiction go through the roof, because for a lot of people, being shut in like that will absolutely cause stress. I put my hand on their tummy button and get them to breathe and lift my hand. It takes 10 minutes, but then they learn to repeat it themselves. Breathing exercises, absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. Borders on genius, right? Because once again, if the anxiety is actually threatening you, right? If it's fight or flight, you think you're going to go, of course not. Nobody takes a real deep breath in the middle of a fight or the middle of running away from something dangerous. I love loud music. Also, anxiety is jumpy for me, so I use music too. Music is a great tool for a lot of things. Honestly, it really, for a lot of people, music is, it brings back memories. I can pick certain songs that can bring me out of almost any mood. Let's see. You need a new doctor. Problem is, my relapses, I don't get tested. My other doctor always drug tested me. Yeah, drug tests are great. They absolutely will. They'll absolutely keep you in check. No, they don't, Tommy. I wonder which no, they don't. Because I don't know what I was wrong about. Doesn't surprise me, though. I'm often wrong. Yes, for sure. 20 minutes a day will help with breathing. Breathing exercises are huge. They really do help. You're communicating to the brain, right? You're communicating to your brain that I'm cool. Everything you can do to tell your brain that you're not in danger, because fight or flight is meant to protect you from danger. So if you can let your brain know, right? Intelligently let your brain know that you are not in any danger, then you can end the stress. Knowing your body and working with it, not against it. It helps me. but no, no, no coffee. I'm sorry, what was that? But I love coffee. I'm doing the try something you suck at. You spoke about to help with anxiety. And I'm learning each time to suck a little less at playing music, calming my brain a little bit more. I love that, T. I love that. Seriously, taking up a hobby, something like a musical instrument, I love that. And don't be afraid to be bad at it, right? Who cares? You're going to get better at it. I promise you that. I am a musician, says Kathy. I play obsessively when I have anxiety. The music is so good for the OCD part. That is awesome. Again, I really wish, that I had taken up an instrument as a kid. I have been, however, working on learning an instrument. And, I have some nerve problems with my left hand. So it had always kept me from doing things because I just didn't think it would be possible. But what I realized is, doesn't hurt you with a harmonica. Oh, I'm so looking forward to being in a place that has none of the allergens that I have here. I figured out I'm pretty good at painting like 7 months ago. Good for you, Random Toaster. You just no, not being funny, but you just randomly one day decided to see if you could paint? Because I've never done that. I know I can't because I just don't have any kind of artistic ability. But I think it's awesome that you just go out there and try and be like, damn, I'm good at this. I think that's awesome. Full of Hope is a painter and actually fairly gifted. It's hard. I have to have 1 cup at least. Yes, music is great. My goddaughter has autism. Music is wonderful. There's no question. Music does incredible, incredible things. Ultramaggot says, I can paint by numbers. I can't. I'm really that bad. I am really that bad. I am a pro. I had a career in music in the Army, which also kept me sober. Kathy, fantastic. We have another pro on here. M. Hunt is an unbelievably accomplished musician, plays a lot of instruments, but the one I have seen him play is the bass guitar, and he plays a bass guitar the way Eddie Van Halen used to play a 6-string. M. Hunt is really, really good at what he does. And he probably left early, so he didn't even hear that. Never feel daunted by a blank canvas. I like that. Right? Just get on it and give it a try. One of the greatest pieces of advice ever, don't be afraid to suck. Right? Don't be afraid to be bad at what you try. Miss V agrees with me. M. Hunt plays a mean bass guitar. That's not a cup of coffee you were holding. That's a bucket. All right, look, it's a large cup. I will give you that. But it only holds 1 cup of coffee because it comes out of a Keurig. It's a difficult thing. People meet online now. I'm older and I can talk to all of you, but to find a date freaks me out. I love your name. I'm trying to be positive. Yeah, I love that name too. I really do. I think Full of Hope is a fantastic, fantastic name. John Doe says bass takes money to reproduce properly in a stereo system. Yep. Great advice, Tommy. I thought I was going to suck when I first tried, and I did it. But it is so much fun. Random, I love that. I really do. I love that. I mean, these are the kind of things, people, that really, really can do wonders for stress. If you go and pay somebody $75 an hour or $150 an hour to talk to you about how to cure your stress, and the guy's got 15 letters after his name, he's going to say things exactly like, boy, if you could take up a musical instrument, gardening, they talk about any kind of a hobby that requires you to focus, right, does beautiful things. If you don't try, you will be stifled. I like that, Annette. And as I always used to say, if you don't ask, the answer is already no. Um, you just go for it. Go for it. No matter what it is. I talk to people all the time that say, I was thinking of starting a YouTube channel, but man, hit play. You could do it with your phone, right? If that's something that has been on your mind, do it. Do it. You can do it with your phone. You don't have to be good. You can suck in the beginning. I did, right? Just upload. And in theory, with every subsequent time that you're on camera, you're going to get a little bit more comfortable. And if you get a little bit more comfortable, perhaps you'll get a little bit better. But don't be afraid to be bad at anything. Gives you really something to do, right? As you sort of climb the ladder to get better at whatever you chose, that satisfaction goes to the soul, right? It's far beyond the brain. And I think with music, as with singing, that vibration does amazing things for the brain. The only limitations there are the ones you put on yourself. Well played. Lifeboat says, but the trolls, I could not cope. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's something about that. There really is. But haters are going to hate, It used to really bother me. And then you realize that if you just don't look at it, then it's not happening. I call them Schrodinger's trolls. All right. All right. 432 hertz versus 440 hertz. John Doe, I wish I knew more about that. Talents help. I'm an artist also. I sculpt with air. Wow. I make mobiles and natural materials, only wood, glass, stone. That is a very cool thing. If you are over on the Lifeboat group page on Facebook, I would love to see something that you've done because that just sounds really interesting. Being a content creator has been great and focused my practicing to get good enough to upload. Good for you, Kathy. All right, peeps. Went a little bit over today, but we seem to be having fun, so I just thought I would roll with it for a little bit longer. And now I'm going to go get back to that whole, I got to pack up this whole place. I'm getting very close right now. Yeah, report and delete. Kath, the ones that are really good, doesn't matter how many times you delete them. You know what I mean? I've got some hardcore trolls that have been going off on me for closing it on 2 years. But you know something? If you can rent 2 years worth of space in somebody's dome for free, hey, guess who just made it in? Squirrel, come here. Get over here. No, maybe not. Apparently she's not in the mood. What is the Facebook group page? Can I get one of my mods to put up the link to the Facebook group page? If not, you can go to the top where it says about, and you're going to end up seeing that there. Hold on. Come here. Give me. Oh, it's in the key. Look at this. Look at this. No basket required. Oh, she's not happy already. Okay. Well, that was Squirrel. The only part I know how to do is flooring installation. It's like putting a giant puzzle together, but you make the pieces. Very cool. Thank you, Tommy. Love you very much, my brother. Thank you, V. Love you too. All of you, man, this is such a great group of people. It really is. It's such a great group of people. Far, far better than most. And I love the fact that we're all here for one another. You just don't find that too many places on this planet, but you sure as hell find it on the Lifeboat. Thank you, everyone, for your kindness. Tommy, I'm so glad you were live. Appreciate y'all. Well, I'm going to be, I believe, I'm live a lot. We switch on and off, but I'm here. I love doing the morning shows. I really do. I think the morning shows are a lot of fun. You get a lot more people watching at night, but the morning shows are just great. It's a great way to start your day. So, all right, people, go out there and make it one hell of a day, right? Attack this thing. It's your day, and you're never going to get it back. So you may as well really, really go after it. Ultra Maggot, that is a talent. Make no mistake. That is definitely a talent. This is Squirrel. I am Captain Tommy. Don't do it. Don't you do it. She's thinking of biting me. All right, peeps. We will see you on the deck of the lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy, and you are the crew. Squirrel, where have you been?